Okay, calling to order this April 21st, 2026 meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Public Defender Service Corporation. Can we get a roll call?
Yes. Okay. Chairman Attorney Shane Black.
Here.
Vice Chairman Attorney Jeffrey Boots. He will be excused
Yeah.
today. Okay. Member Dr. Ricky Hernandez.
President Leveling.
Thank you. Member Attorney Janet King. Not present. Okay. Member Donovan Ucana.
I'm here. Half a day, everybody.
A member Attorney Jojo Perez.
Here, sorry.
He's on this. And member Dr. Cristiano Whitman.
Here.
Okay, Chair.
Okay, and does that bring us to a quorum?
That does bring us to a quorum.
Okay. Looks like all the notices went out for the packet here. Appropriately. So on to the next, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting?
Move to approve subject to any technical corrections.
Second.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At
Aye.
least four. Yeah, unanimous.
Aye.
Approved. Okay, doesn't look like there's any old business on the agenda. So as the new business, executive director update, so Steve.
Okay, great. Thank you for attending. I know we're all still in recovery mode, so I'm glad that we were able to have this board meeting. I apologize for getting the board packet out late. I think we were shut down for almost all of last week, except for pretty much Friday. So they were working on our minutes over the weekend. So I really appreciate the staff for that. So we submitted our budget to the legislature. We did meet with our oversight chair. We might schedule some more meetings with other senators. We don't know if we're gonna actually have a public hearing on it. I guess they're, obviously attacking the bigger agency first, and if they have time, they'll get to us. But we are answering any questions they have. We want to meet with the senators and answer questions. Maybe we don't need to actually present at the legislature. And that's just as far as the budget goes. So right now, you see, we only have one item for new business, which we'll address next. But I did want to update the board on what we are going to be doing and over the next year. One of our first projects is we're going to be issuing an RFP for a case management system. Our case management system is basically going obsolete. They're either forcing us into their cloud version, which is kind of pricey. So we're actually exploring, we met with other vendors to see what else is out there. So we decided to issue an RFP. So we're finalizing that. I'm not sure when we'll be able to get that out.
We're hoping to get it out within the next month.
But we're hoping to have it implemented before the end of the fiscal year, right?
That's our goal.
So that's basically the one of our main things. The other things we're working on is the private attorney panel. We're working on developing their investigators more. The benefit of, obviously PDSC and APD is we have staffed investigators, we have social worker for PDSC, but we believe PAP attorney should have the same access to services. So we are building an investigator panel.
Yeah.
And so I think right now there's like 5, and we're working on a system where they'll get an investigator at the same time they get an attorney appointed. But we haven't, reached that point yet. But once we do, we'll develop the policies and submit it to the board for approval. But it looks like, the private attorney panel seems to be doing really well. I mean, some of them are submitting invoices kind of late, but what can we do, right? Someone's submitting work done in October of last year, right?
Yeah.
Which is when we took over. And so, it takes a while to do all these invoices. I think we probably have over 400 invoices year to date, since October 1. And it's great, that they're getting paid to provide these services. So we're definitely meeting our goal of paying everyone out within, 30, 60 days, right? So, and part of the delay is like, we don't have access to the court records. So we need a notice of appointment for every case. And so there's a little lag time. The attorneys have been sending us their notice of appointments, so that has been expediting matters, but we'll work out a system that gets it handled smoother. Hopefully we'll be able to provide stats at the next board meeting on number of cases the PAP's been assigned, after October 1. And we're still trying to collect data from the court for all cases before October 1, 2025. One of the other requirements really of, the board is to ensure that our admin division and myself provides training to the entire defense bar. So that's something that we're going to be working on. We've had some online training courses that we've been able to obtain. And then we're also so we'll take, like, for example, an online course on evidence relating to criminal sexual conduct cases. And then we'll expand it to include specific Guam law. So as we're taking these national training, we're gonna try to locate Guam law that's relevant and also teach them about that as well. PAP, they're in the process of hiring one more staffer, and once the other staffer gets hired, then we'll be able to roll out a brief bank so that the PDSC and APD, they spend a lot of time on motions that have been very successful, and so we want to provide access to those motions to the private attorney panel will be cost effective as well. Plus, it'll of course improve the level of practice, right? We had been working on juvenile and criminal defense standards under the old board, but we never asked the board to approve them because basically it wouldn't apply system-wide. Now that after the reorganization and we're in charge of the private attorney panel, we're going to roll out our juvenile and adult defense standards and get everyone on the same page. And this will involve everything from how quickly people have to meet their clients after appointment, all the way through motions, at the end of trial, after the appeal is exhausted, and the only last avenue is a motion for reduction of sentence. So it'll handle that and everything in between. And these were developed in conjunction with the Sixth Amendment Center and a prior technical assistance grant we had received. And they actually recommended we don't roll it out until we can have it apply system-wide rather than just PDSC criminal or PDSC and EPD. So that's going to be a big project. It'll take a while, and we're going to do what we can to get as much input from the private attorney panel because it's going to apply to them as well. The Civil Law Center, obviously, we received full funding for that. Carol's expanding services. I know that they're out at one of the.
We just got back from the Red Cross Emergency Shelter for referral, fraud, elder abuse referral. When we got there, there were multiple. So, how many are there? 13 clients?
Yeah, 14 clients, 3 APS referrals.
And APS partnered with us. I had them contact APS this morning, to meet us there. And then, of course, as they were going there, we had another financial exploitation walk in on a $200,000 theft. Yeah.
And that's just at one of the.
That's just one shelter.
That's just one shelter. We're coordinating with the rest of the shelters. That's just the GIGO shelter. So yeah, we're not coordinating with the rest of the shelters to conduct mobile clinics there. So Total Foundation gave us the heads up, and because they were, I guess, doing medical
And Red Cross.
and Red Cross. It's Red Cross's emergency shelter. So I told them we would go to all the shelters at this point and just set up and see what comes out.
So we still have shelters on?
Yes, we do.
Well, I didn't realize. I thought
Yeah.
as of Friday of last week, so we still.
We have 2 in Chico, 3 in Dedado, 1 in Simoni, And I'm not sure where the one south was. The only reason why I got that information is I spoke to the director of Red Cross this morning to arrange the shelter visits.
So yeah, my team's launched out
Yeah,
on
they'll
that.
be, have their hands full.
And so on top of it, we'll meet with Gora, and discuss, because I guess some issues came up from there. We're gonna try to meet with Gora and try to see how we can, ensure that proper notifications get in when, on housing issues, if they're being kicked out or.
Yeah, and then the other big project is we're gonna, we really are short of space. We were kind of hoping the judiciary would move out of that area next to us and we could expand that way. We actually even had plans drawn up to see if we could like make the offices smaller and fit here, but even that doesn't really allow for any kind of significant growth that we anticipate in the service side. Like right now, we can't even hire our other social workers because we don't have a place to put them. So, unfortunately, we believe the admin division is gonna have to relocate. And so that's gonna be another RFP that'll go out, because I think it's gonna exceed the annual 25,000.
Yeah, so in line with the move, I mean, we're hoping to try and move out within this fiscal year. It's a pretty tight deadline, but going with the attrition, right? Because we're gonna be losing a few employees, we're assuming, to retirement. I mean, we have the option of backfilling directly or possibly maximizing the funding. So I get more positions, but with that, yeah, we'll outgrow this space within the next 12 months. We're already outgrown now, but even more so in the next 12 months. So right now we're trying to put together what kind of costs we'd be looking at, right? For the whole admin division to move. And try and see what we can deal with within our current year budget. Keeping in mind that once this budget season is over, we'd have to probably go back and look at what kind of cuts were made, as we're hearing that cuts are pretty much a guarantee. So, we're trying to work within what we got in our current year. We have some money to work with, but we're trying to transition out, maybe a phase transition so that we can get and fill all our vacancies before they get cut. But that's kind of where it's.
Well, if you're gonna have another location and you get this case management system, right? Especially if it's cloud-based, then you have to have redundancies on the internet and other thing in all these
Yeah.
locations too.
Yeah.
So we're trying to leverage what space is here for
Yeah.
IT requirements for all of those redundancies. And then try to be more mobile wherever we're at.
Yeah, currently our admin's pretty mobile because we are on that OneDrive, so
Correct.
we're not even on the server anymore.
Mhm.
So we're already getting used to we don't really have to be involved with the case management system
Correct, yeah.
as much as long as we have access to it to compile the necessary statistics and data
Uh-huh.
we're required to produce. So it's the only division that could really move without impacting or requiring a duplicate server, right?
Yeah.
So, and basically,
We'll make it happen.
yeah, I mean, we're a small agency, we just have our hands full with a lot of these kind of things. Future growth, right?
And see if I can just add on to the attrition part of that. So in line with, those employees who are supposed to retire or set to retire, we're in discussions right now of trying to, look at, assessing our whole corporation as far as, positions, classifications, studying what the employees are doing, right? Just to kind of take a look at what we're doing now, see if there's any changes that need to be made, to positions, right? To update them and whatnot. We have more capacity to do it now and on a quicker time frame. So, we'll probably work through divisions, right? But a lot of these are process based. So we're looking at a lot of the non-service positions and service positions, right? So, just to kind of take a look at the organization in our reorg to see if there's anything else that comes out of it that we might need to, which once we're done, we'll set it up and give it to the board for review. Any recommendations that we might want to make will probably come in line with that.
Yeah, and for example, like a lot of our job descriptions are so general because they have to be vague, but there are a lot of specialized knowledge and duties that our employees do that should probably be incorporated into a proper, job description.
Right.
Like all of our employees have to go to jail, but I don't think most other agencies, they have to do that, right? And then the other thing is, as far as the boards, we're gonna be working on things like our personnel roles, which really haven't been changed since eighties. Yeah, I mean, Judge Abbasi cited it. That's how old they are, right?
Nineteen
And so,
eighty-seven.
our employees deserve to have really a healthy, and good, personnel role. And so we're gonna work on that and, because our admins, we really have a top-notch administrative team that we should be able to roll out, things like our personnel roles. The other things that, the board would need to work on is the indigency determination. We updated it like, last year or the year before, so there's not as much as a rush, to do that. And, we'll come up with a proposal over the next couple of months. It's tied to the, federal poverty guidelines, so instead of having to do a resolution every time it's changed, we can include like an elevator clause that says when it'll always be a percentage of that year's poverty, federal poverty guideline. But yeah, that's about it. I think in terms of hiring, we're pretty much, we have a couple announcements that are closed, so we're working on those. And then the social worker, we have an attorney that might be leaving soon, so. But we're definitely gonna try to throw everything we can before I don't know if the legislature's gonna impose anything like a freeze or anything, but
Yeah.
just to be safe, we'll make sure we prioritize our essential hires first.
On
Steve.
training. Go ahead, Jojo.
Sorry, Chairman. I do have to leave in about 5 minutes, but I just wanted to kind of press 2 points that I wanted at least to have the board think about it, or if there's an answer to my question. But I guess the first one is, so Steve, you were just mentioning that we're still waiting on October payouts to the attorney from the sorry, I'm just going back to my notes. Was it like the October 2025 we're still paying out to the panel?
No, someone is just turned in invoices from work they performed in October.
Okay, perfect. Okay, but we're up to date, right?
Yeah, no, we're definitely up to date. So when you turn in something from October, there might be like 100 invoices, so it'll take a little time. I'm not sure how many were, and then. But we're definitely within that 30-day turnaround.
Okay, I just wanted clarification.
Yeah, that's true.
Perfect. I wasn't sure if I heard you correctly that we still had outstanding, but it's just because they turned it in late, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, there's no deadline, so we just, the clock starts for us when they turn in the invoice. But I guess the clock doesn't really start for our lawyers. That's what worries me, is that they'll be turning in, stuff at the end of the fiscal year when we should be closing our books. And we don't have time to process it. So that's something we might have to.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And then my second point is, I know the board's gonna jump onto it, but unfortunately I may not be there during the discussion point, is Steve, I saw your memo that was attached to the agenda, and that's for the, I guess, pay increase, right? For not necessarily an actual pay increase, but is it like a compensation?
That's
And
right, differential almost of 5% for people who are going to be assigned additional duties.
And I do know, and I was looking at our statute, and I just wanted to make sure. I know the statute referenced that at least we have to be in line with DOA's, I think in the reference of, and I'm not too sure if we might have misstated the statutory authority, because I think it's 11110-C, but or subsection C. But I think on that subsection, there was a reference to make sure we're at least in compliance with the DOA pay. Let me just make sure I get the right language for that statute. But it's the as long as we're in compliance in the 2014 Competitive Wage Act. And my only concern with that is I didn't see any, and maybe the board can direct me, or director, you can direct me into the allowance for an additional pay differential. But for the life of me, this thing wasn't really searchable, so I couldn't really find that section on the Competitive Wage Act for pay differential.
Yeah, I think with the correlation to the 2014 study, I mean, in essence, the basis of the comparison would be how the positions are job size and the relevant pay scales. So I think we've already exercised this board's authority over the pay scales, right? They're consistent in how put together and the pay grades. So as far as differentials, I mean, differentials aren't addressed in particular by the 2014 CWA in the manner that we're looking at executing, right? It created different pay plans altogether. So I think within what we've already established as our pay scales, it's consistent with 2014 in that we didn't change the method in how we're job sizing positions or grading them or anything like that. We're still within what DOA would use to determine those.
Yeah, and kind of in the way that the governor has the ability to issue executive orders, our board, I believe our board has the ability to issue, resolutions that create things like pay differentials. I mean, currently they have the attorney 5 slot, but we didn't feel that the attorney 5 slot, which is currently available to us, would be appropriate given the work that's going to be required.
Okay. And then I look forward just to kind of see the transcript if there's further discussion on that. And then lastly, the way the payment conditions are going to be made, it's going to be like a timesheet, and then they would just clock in on to get that pay differential on how many hours they worked at.
Yeah, the payment method is just linked to it. That's consistent with how the differentials are done on the executive side. So it's just it's only given for time work. So if you're on personal leave, you won't be receiving the pay differential, right? Unless you're on leave that's at the direction of the corporation, right? And it's training leave or anything like that. But it's kind of a cost containment measure to make sure that it's only paid out when they're doing the work that they're assigned for the differential.
Okay. Thank you guys. Unfortunately, I have to head out, but I appreciate the discussion. I'll look forward to the minutes for this meeting.
And trustee, because we got the packet out late and everyone just got to review it yesterday, we could just discuss it a little today and then vote on it at the next.
Perfect. Yes, that I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jojo.
Bye, Jojo.
Do we still have a quorum even? 1, 2,
Oh.
3, 2,
I don't think it's a quorum vote, right? You need 5 to pass the bill.
You're not passing forward.
No.
Yeah, so
not-
we would just able to get it.
Well, anyway, I don't know if we're passing it, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, 4.
Okay, I was gonna tell you, in terms of educating the rest of the public, when I was on the CJA panel at District Court, they had a primer, which was invaluable. I don't know if that's something that you ever thought about working on.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something, we actually sent out like this 800-page, how to handle a criminal case, even from like the point of arrest, right?
Yeah,
How do you advise someone when the police wants to question them?
yeah,
So that's been sent to everybody, but, the standards are a little different than, actual manual, but it wouldn't be hard to.
you could probably
convert the
take that
standards
one,
into a
yeah,
manual, yeah.
and then adjust it for
CJA
long
one?
pretty easily, yeah.
You still have it?
I still have an older version.
But I'll send you that other one,
Yeah.
it's like a national, it's a really comprehensive document.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and then the other thing that came to mind, just because we happen to have been involved with a habeas thing, is, how are the prisoners doing right now, especially with the typhoon and everything? They're kind of.
Yeah, so apparently, they don't really have generators at all of the facilities, so like, they couldn't even zoom into court for some, like, minor settings the women's facility doesn't have. And, I was working on something to the director,
Wow,
trying to encourage them to declare an emergency so that they can
the
procure
heat is crazy.
Yeah,
essentials, because that's really the problem with them is their procurement is so delayed. Right?
yeah. I mean, they brought problems even aside from the typhoon.
Oh, yeah. No. That's one of those can of worms we're, working on. Hopefully,
Okay,
I'm trying to educate DOC, because there's a lot of litigation that came out of California that
yeah,
basically forced California to reduce, their population to about, 135%
Yeah.
of, their capacity. And that one was affirmed by the US Supreme Court, so,
yeah,
that's something that, it's one of those can of worms where,
that and the client meeting,
They had the first magistrates on Thursday night and we had one of our lawyers go till 7:30 at night. It had to be in person.
Yeah, and some of those were like for DUIs. Can you imagine like getting picked up for a DUI being held throughout
The whole
the typhoon?
Wow. Wow.
Spit it out.
Okay, well, not to segue too far, but we did start to talk about the supervising attorney differential policy. I don't know if you have any more to present, because Jojo jumped in on.
I know. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean,
Yeah,
our lawyers are pretty overwhelmed as it is. I mean, I think if we get to that point where we want to implement workload standards, that everybody, I think, both PDSC and APD are probably exceeding nationally accepted workload numbers.
And I think part of the discussion, right, because I did have a long discussion with John Morrison about it as well, right? It's kind of a pilot program. We did entertain the thought of having a supervising attorney position versus a managing attorney. But creating something like that, has collaboration across the government, right? Because PD could create its own supervising attorney, but we didn't know if we needed to take that big of a step. So this is kind of a pilot, as far as assigning supervising duties for the workload, right? And being a resource and guidance for particular cases. We tried to limit it just to this division, because of the size of the workforce here and how many attorneys we have, and in 3 service areas, right? So the 5% differential was something meaningful enough where it wouldn't break the bank, but it also would take into mind not compressing the attorney 5 level, right, as far as compensation. But then you're talking about revamping the whole pay scale at that point. So this was a good way to kind of wedge in to see how this turns out. I think John took a good look at other areas and other PD offices, and across the nation, they all have different specialties and subject fields, right? So that's kind of where the thought process came from. We kind of just tied in the admin parts of it, how you pay them, who gets it, eligibility requirements, things like that. And it's just for the board's consideration. It's something new, like brand new, right? And I think it's something that, it's already being done at like the Attorney General's office. I mean, they have multiple layers of positions that the Attorney General appoint. All we're doing here is trying to see if it's even feasible to have another level in there between the managing attorneys and the resident attorneys. So,
So for example, at the AG's office, they have but they all pay on the attorney 5 scale,
right,
which is more significant than a 5% increase.
correct.
And so, we need that, it's not true priority, but it's close enough for now. And if it works, then we can pursue something else down the road. But like for example, their family division probably has fewer attorneys than our office. PDSC criminal has juvenile attorneys, right? I think they only have 2 in family. But
They added.
no, they might have 3, but we have like 4. So, and there is management with juggling their criminal caseload along with their juvenile caseload. And so, and then the supervising attorney, would be someone that would help, someone that they could turn to and guide as we're handling more appeals. And, when things go to trial, they're kind of like the consultant for the trial. So that's kind of extra work. And so, usually this 5% would kind of make it more appealing to be that front person that can help guide them. I mean, I know like when I had a full caseload, I was still doing it, but it really takes a lot of time from your current caseload, when you're managing attorneys. And so I think this will provide John more assistance, especially in the juvenile area, where he can defer to a juvenile specialist and someone could help him with the criminal side as well.
But we tried to build in a little flexibility, right? Depending on how it works out. It could be anything from someone gets appointed and it doesn't work out for any reason. Basically, they just step out of the role or they get taken out of the role and the 5% goes away. It's not a permanent increase, right? It's just while you're in the capacity of that, those roles. So it's a true pilot program to see how it works out. But yep, for the board's consideration
And it's attorney for and above.
yeah, it's just the attorney for them.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a question. Oh, yeah,
Yes,
thanks
yeah,
everyone.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious, I totally am supportive of the proposal. I wanted to know just on the implementation of it, when you decide on an attorney for, are they gonna hold that, I guess in place for like a project, or is it gonna be identified kind of for the year? Because it seems like you included some flexibilities if you're going to like turn it off and on as needed. I guess that's my first question. And then just my second one was, do these individuals have to be actually overseeing other attorneys, or is that a requirement?
So to the first question, well, it's going to be in 3 areas, right? So as far as it being more permanent, it was designed mostly to just have them oversee the attorneys, like Steve said, act as guiding attorneys for it. And it wouldn't be a supervisor administratively in that sense, if that makes, they wouldn't be approving leave, they wouldn't be doing things like that, performance evaluations, but they would just take on the extra role of becoming basically a lead in that area and supervising the workload, right, Steve? That's
Yeah.
kind of what we're looking at. As far as the appointment of it, how we're looking at, I mean, we don't have any attorney force just yet slated for it, right? But basically it would go through the executive director and the managing attorney, and they decide which attorney force they would be looking at for each of these areas, and then have that conversation with them. And if approved by the board, the policy would allow the executive director to go ahead and appoint them into that position. The duration of it wouldn't be for like a set project. My understanding it's for all cases that are in those respective areas. So it could be for a year, depending on, of course, if the attorney for wants to stay in that role, or if there's a change in who's going to be in there. If people could resign, right? Figure out how we go from there. But yeah, it's not for a set project. It's I want to say it's for all the work that's incorporated in those respective areas.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
For example, the training director in other public defender organizations, it's actually a full-time attorney, but we don't have enough attorneys on involvement. Our budget isn't big enough to have a full-time training attorney, but we definitely need training, right? So I think a 5% differential to appoint someone to be a training director kind of as a collateral duty is, money well spent. And it was one of the recommendations of the Sixth Amendment Center in that the study they did.
But it's only terminated through a personal action or some form.
That's correct. Yeah. So if this were approved and we'd run through the process, basically the executive director would be the managing attorney. The managing attorney would have to request to the executive director the memo. If it's approved, we'll cut an actual personal action that gives a start date to the differential. After that, HR will take over as far as administering the requirements in the policy. Should that appointment end, another action will be cut to signify that.
Yeah, we just want to make sure it's not like classified and the employee or the attorney would think they're guaranteed the 5% for the rest of their,
Tenure.
Yeah.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions?
And we could, hopefully we could table this so,
Yeah,
trustee.
read through it, come up with more
Good.
questions.
Yeah, I haven't had much time to review this, so I personally would move to table this to our next meeting. For further discussion by a more complete board
Mhm.
and given more time to review this,
Right.
especially given some of the things Jojo raised and the review of the law and that.
Yeah.
So anybody like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of tabling, this discussion till the next meeting? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, any further public discussion? No? Okay, I guess we have to figure out when we're gonna meet next.
Yeah, that's a big question. Hopefully there's no storms between now.
Yeah, right now we have, May 26th, slated. Is there any objection to that? Anybody be on that? Okay, that seems good for me too.
May 26th, same time, 12:30.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I guess I'll move to adjourn, subject to the next meeting on May 26th. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Or-
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Ricky.
Perfect timing.